So more stuff happening at live concerts recently that's just going to make for us having good conversations online about how stuff works at venues and concerts and on tour and stuff. I don't know how many people saw this, but yesterday, We Came as Romans had to cancel the remainder of their show mid-show due to issues that they had with security staff at a venue being too aggressive with fans. I'm not going to lie, hearing something like that doesn't surprise me because I've had a lot of issues on the road over the years with security being very aggressive with fans and patrons, but to be fair, there are two sides to every story, and I think I kind of know where this is coming from, but I do want to discuss this because this is pretty wild that they had to cancel a whole show over it. So We Came as Romans put this on their official Instagram page a day ago. It says, our show in Providence, Rhode Island last night had to be canceled. During Bodysnatcher's set, multiple attendees were wrongfully and aggressively dragged out of the venue. Some of our touring crew went outside to de-escalate the situation with security as we had approved moshing and crowd surfing with the venue and security teams during a security brief earlier in the day. That's something super important we'll come back to in a second too. But they continued by saying the security team did not respond well and the situation escalated further, even to the point of spitting in our crew's faces, spitting on gear, threatening physical violence, and someone having to be physically restrained. Out of an abundance of caution for the protection of all of the fans, our own touring party, all 4 bands and crew, and the venue staff, all parties agreed that the best move was to cancel the show. We can't tell you how disappointed we are that we were not able to play. Refunds are available at your point of purchase. We would like to thank Bowery Prevents for being great partners and do not want this to reflect on them at all. This situation reflects only on house security of the venue and venue management's lack of accountability. So one of the big things right there at the end that this tells us is that this was a outside promotion company, Bowery Presents, who I have done shows with in the past, and they're great. They promoted the show, but this was not like their venue that they owned. So this was an outside promoter that booked a show at a venue, and We Came as Romans wanted to make that very clear. It seems like it was venue management and the security at the venue that was the real problem here, not the promoters or anything like that. It's also interesting that they said all parties agreed that the best move was to cancel the show. That means the promoter, the bands, and the venue. So the venue management must have either, whether the venue management recognized that it was an issue from them or they thought the show was an issue, they agreed that the show should be canceled too, which is kind of wild. But who is on this tour? We Came as Romans, Amir, Bodysnatcher. Ugh, sorry. Let's try that again. But real quick, before we do try that again, I want to take a quick second to talk to you guys about the sponsor of this video, NordVPN. Now, for those of you that have spent really any amount of time online, you've probably heard of NordVPN. They're the fastest VPN on the planet, and they're the VPN that I choose to use whether I'm on tour or at home. And VPNs are great because at the click of a button, you can mask your IP address and stay hidden online. Your sensitive files on your computer can stay protected, and you can even stay closer to home and use a VPN to watch your favorite streaming services. But my personal favorite thing about NordVPN, coincidentally in the topic of this video, is security. With NordVPN, you get access to their threat protection feature. And before I even go into what it does, the coolest thing about it is that you don't even have to be connected to a VPN for it to work. You just need to be using NordVPN's application. With threat protection, you're going to get protected from malware, ransomware, man-in-the-middle attacks, a ton of other stuff. It has an ad blocker built in, and if you're using it on your mobile device, it will even alert you if you're trying to sign on to a sketchy Wi-Fi network. So unlike some other security teams that we've been talking about, NordVPN's threat protection actually pays to be over the top and aggressive. So if you want to pump up your personal online security while getting all of the benefits of the fastest VPN on the planet, head over to nordvpn.com/TankTheTech for a very exclusive offer. They've got a 2-year plan where they will give you 4 additional months for free. And if there's anybody out there that is skeptical about all of this, they offer a full 30-day money-back guarantee. So what have you really got to lose? One more time, you can head over to nordvpn.com/TankTheTech for all of the benefits and features of NordVPN, all while having the feeling of having your own personal online security team. Thank you so very much to everybody that took the time to watch this. Thank you one more time to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. And now back to me trying to pronounce band names correctly. Bodysnatcher and Archetypes collide. And didn't this say that it happened during Bodysnatcher's set? Okay, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I know I've heard their name a million times, but I've never listened to them. Bodysnatcher is like a beatdown band. Yeah? So let's actually just listen really quick, because I'm curious. I've never listened to Bodysnatcher. Before we even listen, if this band is what I think they are, that's an odd lineup. I don't know about the opening band, but Amur and Bodysnatcher opening for We Came as Romans, that's like worlds colliding. Like, that seems like two very different crowds. All right, this is the top song on Spotify from Bodysnatcher. It's called King of the Rats. Oh, yeah, this is exactly what I thought it was going to be.
What's up, bitch? Fuck you. It's still fucking late.
Chris Cross in chat just asked a very important question. What does beatdown band mean? Beatdown band means that they have music that allows you to do this in the crowd.
I would argue, yeah, nah, to that. I would strongly argue, yeah, nah. This is dancing.
So, beatdown band. Like, crowd killing band. For sure. So to hear that security at a venue had a not so good response during a band like that playing, I'm not surprised to hear that. However, I'm not justifying their behavior, because I think one of the big disconnects with security at a lot of shows nowadays is the lack of knowledge of the culture of the shows that are coming in. And this is something that I talked to Alex from Malevolence about when I had him on the podcast, because, you know, they grew up in the hardcore scene and like beatdown scene and stuff like that. And I don't want to say all security guards are like this, because I've met some absolutely fantastic security teams on tours over the years at venues that know what they're doing, and they understand that the crowds are there to have a good time, and they know the cultures and stuff. But I've definitely met security guards that tell me the whole reason they like doing security is because they get to throw people around and not get in trouble for it. So I think it could be both things. It could be you do have security guards there that are looking for hostile confrontations, but you also have security guards that don't know the actual culture of the shows coming in. If you get a security guard on your staff that doesn't know hardcore culture or doesn't know metal backgrounds and sees moshing and hardcore dancing and crowd killing moves, they might legitimately think that there's some shit going down that they need to break up or physically handle. And again, sometimes people take it too far. So I think that's a big problem too, is like, even if you do have a good security team, you could have that one person that just, they decide they don't like what's going on and they want to take care of it themselves physically, which is not a good situation. So Vix just sent me this link to Facebook. It's actually a statement from the front of house engineer. Front of house, that's the audio engineer mixing the sound that you as a fan in the crowd hear. This is Sam Kirby, the front of house engineer for We Came as Romans. This is pretty lengthy, but I feel like this looks as though, without reading it yet, that this goes into detail of the entire situation. Sam said Sunday night in Providence, Rhode Island, Fete Music Hall. Is it Fete or Feet or Feety or Fete? I don't know. I've never been there. Let's just call it Fete, I guess. During Bodysnatcher's set, venue security began physically assaulting fans who attempted to mosh. During the security briefing before the show began, security was instructed to only intervene if fights or aggressive moshing was taking place. The venue had a no crowd surfing rule, so we met in the middle and decided there would be a 3 warning rule. Everything seemed fine until all hell broke loose. That's kind of interesting to say that they met in the middle and decided there'd be a 3 warning rule. Is that like 3 total times crowd surfing, or one person trying to crowd surf 3 times? I don't know. Either way, let's continue. My tour manager, my drum tech, and I witnessed a group of security guards dragging out a fan without warning by their throat and hair. We obviously jumped in to try and de-escalate the situation. Our fan safety is top priority. We were met with violence as soon as we stepped in. The security repeatedly slammed the fan's head into the pavement outside the venue. The security then targeted us as the problem. We were met by at least 6 guards who pushed, shoved, and attempted to do the same thing to us. I have been in plenty of physical altercations in my life, but last night was different. There was a moment I thought I was going to be thrown down a flight of stairs by a member of their staff. They spit in our drum tech's face, who was simply trying to calm everyone down, all while hurling expletives at us and threatening violence. Obviously, all of this was inexcusable, so we immediately made the decision to stop the show. Majority of the bands and crew from the tour immediately gathered backstage to assess the situation. We were then met by members of the security team. The altercation continued. We were met by multiple members of the security team who screamed at us, threatened to meet us outside and fight us, then spit at us and our gear. The general manager of the venue met us once the situation slowed and immediately took the side of his security team, blamed us, deflected every bit of the situation. For the safety of our fans, bands on the tour, and our crew, we obviously decided to pack it up and get the out of the venue. So that's a pretty intense situation, man. Seeing it word for word like that versus the general statement makes it a lot different, because by the general statement, you obviously know something went down and security guards are power tripping, but that's intense, dude. Like, I have only been in a handful of situations in my touring career where I have been threatened with violence by security staff, or not even just security staff, venue staff. One time, at the American Music Hall, the Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, California, I was doing merchandise for Nick Jonas, like definitely not a hardcore or a metal act. And there was a disagreement when I was settling merch with the venue. And the venue guy wanted me to pay him a 20% merch fee off of the gross sales, which was not part of our contract. It was net sales. So I told him I was only paying him off of the net sales, which is after taxes and fees and stuff are taken out. And he went and got 3 of his security guards and came back to my merch table and said, well, you can either pay us or we can meet you out back. To which I called my tour manager and production manager, who are both old school hardcore dudes from the East Coast, and they came in and de-escalated the situation. Like, here's a comment on this from somebody that says, as a member of security at multiple venues, this is absolutely appalling. We would never forcibly kick someone out unless they started a fight or tried to get on stage. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If a venue doesn't allow moshing or crowd surfing, they need to ban booking heavy bands and send them elsewhere so we can have fun and peace. That last part is a really good point. But also, I just want to point out that this person said that this is appalling. And like I said earlier in this video, like, there are some great security staffs out there. And I feel like I got to be fair here too and say that everybody's experience is different, because when I was recently at the Fillmore in Denver on my last tour, I had nothing but an absolutely pleasant experience with the security team there. The head of security at that venue was absolutely awesome. They took care of the fans. They were really cool. But I've talked to another friend of mine that's been there on other shows, notably heavier shows than the one that I was on, that told me that they hate that security person and his team are all dicks. So every situation is different too. That's what's hard sometimes when we're like evaluating what's going on. But a situation like what happened to We Came as Romans and their tour, that should never happen. That is absolutely ridiculous. And I will say, as a tour manager on tour, when I see situations like that I don't like, I haven't seen anything this extreme in a long time, but I mean, I'll go to the head of security immediately. There were a couple shows on my last tour where I did not like the way that I saw like the security in the barricade handling crowd surfers. Like, they were catching them and then they were grabbing them by the back of the shirt and like pushing them as hard as they could to get out, like throwing them out aggressively. And I went to the head of security and I'm like, hey, go talk to your guys. That's not the way we take care of people. Like, I understand there's a lot of crowd surfing and they're probably annoyed, but you don't physically toss fans out like that. They could trip, they could fall, they could get hurt. Then you guys are in trouble. Like, handle that differently. And then on the flip side of that, I had security staffs at some venues that loved it. They were catching crowd surfers and high-fiving people and stuff. Like, I don't know. I think this goes into a mentality thing, man. These security that work at these venues, I feel like it maybe if they're having a bad day already and they go in there just not wanting to deal with moshing and crowd surfing, then they might already be in a place mentally where they're gonna handle situations bad. But as this person said in this Facebook post, if a venue doesn't allow moshing or crowd surfing, they need to ban booking heavy bands and send them elsewhere. I mean, Easier said than done because venues need to, book shows and stuff like that. But yes, be aware of the shows that you have coming in. Now, to slightly argue this, to be fair, as we've already determined, this was an outside promoter that rented the venue and had this show come in. So maybe this venue doesn't have shows like that.
A few moments later.
Just to play devil's advocate from looking at their schedule, it does not look like they regularly have that kind of tours in there. At least that they book. They might have outside promoters that bring in stuff. But it is a good point to bring up. They don't have anything on their website that says anything about no moshing or crowd surfing. So for patrons that are attending that show, they might not have even known. And that's another big issue too. It's like, in their front of house engineer's statement and their statement, they said that their tour manager did a security meeting with the venue, which is absolutely normal. I do security meetings every day on the road when I'm tour managing a tour. We go through everything from how many security people are going to be in the barricade to where exits are to how situations are going to be handled. I let them know how the crowd's going to be. Like, they have a heads up before the show starts how it's going to go. But the main point that I'm trying to make here is that while they told the band they don't allow crowd surfing and they met in the middle on a 3-strike rule or something like that, do you expect the entire crowd of fans to know going in there? Unless they maybe had like a voice of God announcement on the PA before the show that said no crowd surfing or something like that. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know the situation. But, when you at a venue, when you try and implement these rules of no moshing and no crowd surfing at hardcore shows, at metal shows, at rock shows, it's a very hard thing to enforce when you get a huge group of people in one room that is used to those shows. Imagine going somewhere like, one of the last shows I just saw was like Orbit Culture. And before that, I saw Slaughter to Prevail. I was like, could you imagine if before the show, they made an announcement over the PA that said, this show will have no crowd surfing, no moshing, and if there are, people will be ejected. Could you imagine how that would go down? It would be impossible to get every single person in that room to not crowd surf or not mosh. Like, it's just not going to happen. So again, as we're talking, like going back and forth on this argument, like maybe venues shouldn't have these bans in if they don't want that kind of environment. I mean, that's a big thing with this. But anyways, as somebody just said previously in chat, the whole situation is kind of f***ed. Me, from my touring experience, I think this is a mixture of two different things. I think this is a security crew that was probably not aware of the culture of moshing with a band like Bodysnatcher or even Amir. And well, Amir and We Came as Romans didn't even go on. So yeah, they probably saw some of the beatdown moshing and stuff for Bodysnatcher, if that was even happening, and decided they didn't want to deal with it. And you probably had a lot of people on that security team, if not the entire security team, that was just looking to be meathead, tough guy, aggressive dudes that were looking for confrontation, which unfortunately does happen. I don't know, man. I mean, I have no simple solution or anything else as far as my take goes on this. I just kind of wanted to dive into this because this does seem to be something that's happening more and more. And I think security at these venues just needs to be analyzed more by the actual venues. And they also need to do more training on the kind of shows that are coming in so they're aware of what's going on. Because you got to admit, if you're a person that's never been to a hardcore show or a beatdown show, and you see a kid go out in the crowd and start doing spinning heel kicks and picking up change and doing windmills and stuff, yeah, you're probably going to flip out and think if your job is security, you need to physically do something about that. Again, I'm not backing up the behavior. I'm just saying, playing devil's advocate, I can see where that mentality might come from because they're not used to that, but it's no excuse for taking a fan outside and smashing their head into a curb and then starting a fight with the bands that are on the tour. That's absolute shit. But anyways, curious on your guys' thoughts if you've ever had any interactions with security at venues like this. Drop them in the comments below, but that's going to be it for me on this one. Thank you to everybody that's on Twitch right now while we talk about this, and thank you for everybody on YouTube watching later. If you'd like to join us on Twitch, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech. We stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And you can follow me on just about every other social media platform. My handle is @TankTheTech. But until next time, wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I'll be back very soon with another video.